This video is about how to chunk things. Chunk things when it's like a big project, like repainting the living room or going through your books or going through all the paperwork in the attic or, oh my God, cleaning out the junk mail folder and looking through the downloads on your computer, like whatever feels like, it's so big. And then the next thought that jumps in might be, I'll get to it once I have more time. I'll get to it once the cat is well. I'll get to it once I've fixed this other area of my life. But what if it could happen here and now without being stressful and overwhelming? Because the stressful and overwhelming part isn't doing it in 10 minutes chunks. This, for me, the stressful and overwhelming part is that I get impatient and I think it needs to happen now. And unless I can devote all my time and energy for it, what's the point? Because I like to see big progress right away. And this is what keeps people from writing books and changing careers and, taking up a new hobby that might require some learning because it feels like, but I don't have the time. But what if you don't need all the time in the world? What if you only need a little bit of time? So then how to chunk it? So I like to chunk it by what's the least amount I can do that makes me still feel like I'm making some progress. So that's one way of doing it. So instead of spending, oh my God, how horrible, a whole Sunday going through my junk mail folder, every time I sit down at my computer, I will, look through it and delete 50 at a time. That's chunking it every day. Every day I will delete 50. Slowly wins the race, right? And going through your books, if it's too stressful, do it by category. Cookbooks, educational books, literature, nonfiction, memoirs. Like, how can you chunk it? Or maybe you chunk it by room. So you don't have to do all the books, but you do some of them. But things like, for instance, I just repainted the bedroom. Oh my God. And it's something I've been putting off for, I'm embarrassed to say how many years, because I used to think that once my book was done and once my coaching practice was like growing more and once and once this and once it had to be summer because we had to have the windows open and maybe I had to clean out all the furniture first. Like I made it so big that I never got around to doing it, which is exactly what my, ego, I feel like my inner self saboteur, my inner critic, wanted to do, because by making it too big, I never get around to it, and then I don't have to deal with it, and then things can just stay as they are because, as we know, our inner critic is not a big fan of change, even if it's change for the better. So, like sometimes, yes, it is a big job, but sometimes we make it bigger than it needs to be. And yes, it took me maybe 2 weeks to finish the bedroom because I would paint 1 hour here, 1 hour there. I would move some stuff away from the wall, paint a little bit, go back to a Zoom call. And guess what? It wasn't stressful. The stress about it wasn't, changing from painting gear to looking, putting on some earrings and a nice t-shirt. Look, I'm wearing a new t-shirt from Sarah. It's fantastic. Anyways, that's not the point. The point is that the changing of the carbs wasn't the stressful. The stress was in my head. Oh my God, now I have to change and I have to do this. And da, da, da. Like it was my chatter that made it stressful. The actual doing it in chunks isn't very stressful. It's only stressful if I feel like I need to get it done now. You don't. I could just approach it as a Zen master. If I was Mr. Miyagi, could he just paint a tiny section of it at a time? Give it his full attention. Then go and change, have a cup of tea, sit down, do some writing. It's like, oh my God, it's like, whew, I could just feel how that calmed me down. So maybe you don't relate to Mr. Miyagi. Maybe you have another role model, like who would be able to do this? And can I kind of tap into that energy? What would make it feel more spacious? And in my life, it's always in my mind. I don't need more time. I need less stressful thoughts around it. But they're not easy to change, like ta-da, abracadabra. But it's like, who would be able to do this in the least stressful way and also make progress? Mr. Miyagi. He always comes to mind, right? And also the Dalai Lama. He is someone who taught me that there's always at least 6 solutions to a problem. You don't start looking until you found a solution that really works for you. So it's like, oh my God, I can paint the bedroom, but in tiny, tiny time chunks. And, 2 weeks later, it was done. time is going to pass anyway, so why not do it? So that is my approach to chunking. Set a timer, do it in sections and channel someone who could do it in the least stressful way, step by step, and actually getting it done. And then suddenly you've done it. And that's a fantastic feeling. I hope this helps. And just like ask yourself, what would make this feel more safe? What would make this feel easier? What do I need to think to take the stress and the sting out of it? And the answers will come to you. And then you act from those answers and not from that hyper place. Bye for now.